In this video, we're going to be comparing two of the hottest smartwatches in 2020. In this corner, we've got the Fitbit Versa 3 going up against the TicWatch Pro 3 by MOBVOI. These two watches are going to go head to head up next. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me. My name is Jeff, and if you are new to this channel, I do all sorts of smartwatch reviews, tech tutorials, and more. So please consider subscribing. Today, we're getting right to it. We are comparing two of the hottest smartwatches, the Fitbit Versa 3 and the TicWatch Pro 3, so that you guys can find out all the features and check out which watch is going to be best for you. Now, for full transparency, I bought the Fitbit Versa 3 with my own money to do previous reviews, which you can check out on this channel. And then MOBVOI had sent me the TicWatch Pro 3 for my review. There was no payment or anything like that. They simply sent me the watch for a review. And just because they sent it to me doesn't mean I'm going to favor it in any way in comparing these two watches. I'm going to give you my honest opinions and give you information so that you can make your own decisions on which one of these watches might be best for you. So let's compare the Versa 3 with the TicWatch Pro. Starting off, let's go into pricing. So the Versa 3 is going to be priced at $229 US. TicWatch Pro 3 is going to be priced at $299. So $70 more gets you the Pro 3 versus the Versa 3. So as far as color options, the Versa 3 comes in three different color options. You can get completely black. This is actually the soft gold edition, where you'll see the bezel going around is going to be soft gold, and then it's got the midnight band. You can also get the soft gold with a pink band. The TicWatch Pro 3 is only going to come in the shadow black that you're seeing here. So right off the bat, we're going to see differences. The Versa 3 has more of a square screen, whereas the TicWatch Pro 3 has that traditional round screen, which is honestly a little bit different. The Versa 3 actually has a 1.58 inch square screen, whereas the TicWatch Pro 3 has a 1.4 inch. They both have AMOLED screens. However, you'll probably notice that as I am using the TicWatch Pro, the screen will fade out or time out, and then it actually changes to an LCD readout, which is much dimmer but is supposed to help with saving battery. So this watch actually has two screens to it. It's got the AMOLED, which was the vibrant color screen you were seeing, and then here now is that LCD screen, still showing the date, time, steps, which is really nice, and a different feature than I've seen in other smartwatches, where it actually has one screen laid on top of the other. And real quick, a quick shout out to Dan Cloween, our latest viewer on this channel that spotted Tinker in one of our recent videos. Tinker is our little hidden robot, and he briefly pops up in all of our videos. So as you're watching this video, be watching for Tinker to pop up. If you happen to spot him, take note of the timestamp or the amount of time into this video that you saw him pop up, and be the first person to let me know that timestamp down in the comments section below, along with your best comment. You'll get your name on our Tinker Forward Hall of Fame page, as well as mentioned in a future video on this channel. So as we look at the build quality of the Versa 3, so this has an aluminum casing, and you'll see that as we look at the side, there are no physical buttons on this watch. On this left side, we've got a haptic button, which you have to press with your thumb, and that is going to turn it off and turn it back on. And I will say it is in kind of an awkward place, the fact that it is so far down. Sometimes I find that it is hard to push that button. If I'm pushing it, it isn't always responsive. You definitely have to give it some good strength to push it, to activate it. On the right side, we are going to have a microphone and a speaker, and that allows for voice assistant. In addition to that, we have the detachable bands. Fitbit has actually changed the bands, starting with the Versa 3 and the Fitbit Sense that they've released, where they used to have the pin, very similar to what the TicWatch Pro has, but now they've changed it to this plastic quick release band, and you just press it, and that allows you to switch out bands. You can kind of see the sensor layout that's on the back. The other thing with the band that is very interesting is that because of the new band design, the way this works is you now press it through, or you pass it through this rubber part on the back, and then this actually sits underneath. So this is how the band sits on your hand. It is so light that I honestly can't even feel it resting on my wrist. So next, let's take a look at the TicWatch Pro 3. You'll see that this is actually a stainless steel build. The top here has this nice bezel that goes around it. And unlike the Versa 3, we actually have two physical buttons, and these are also metal. These are stainless steel. So this definitely has a little bit of weight to it. And I think just presence-wise, if you compare this size, the screens may be pretty comparable, but this is more of a beefy watch, and there definitely is some meat to this. So you'll see on the side here, we've actually got a built-in speaker, and then on this side, we have a built-in microphone. With that being said, if we look at the band, so the band is more of a traditional watch band. It actually looked leather to me, but it's actually made of silicone, and then it's got this nice stitching going through it. So it's got a very classy look. On the back, what we can see is the layout for the sensors. And then this is more of the traditional watch band that has the traditional clasp going around your wrist. And with the TicWatch Pro 3, it has the pins. These are the 22mm bands to easily just pop them out, and you can switch these out with other 22mm bands. So putting this watch on my wrist, again, very comfortable to wear. I like the silicone band. But it definitely does have a little bit more weight to it, a little bit more footprint and presence than the Versa 3. So if I put the two watches on top of each other, you can kind of see the difference in size. They're pretty darn close all the way around. I will say weight-wise, though, I do think the Versa 3 is a little bit lighter than the TicWatch Pro 3. And if you're enjoying this video right now, take a second, smash that like button, as it helps out this video as well as this channel. So both watches allow you to change watch faces on Fitbits. You can go to the Clocks app, and then there are several pre-saved clock faces that you can choose from. You can go into the Fitbit app and choose from just tons more. There's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of clock faces to choose from. On the TicWatch Pro 3, you can just press down on the screen and then scroll through other available watch faces. There's a ton to choose from. Find the watch face that you really like, and then you can just tap it to activate it. If you go into the Wear OS app, you have tons of different watch faces to choose from as well. This is Fitbit's charger right here, and neither one of these come with the plugs anymore. You just get the USB cable, so you'll need to use an existing plug that you have, and then this just snaps right onto the back while charging on the Versa 3. On the TicWatch Pro 3, it's a little bit of a smaller charging cable. This just has the two pins, and if we flip this guy over, you'll see that that just clips onto there, and that's going to start charging it up. So in talking about the battery life with both of these watches, the Versa 3 touts it's got up to a 6-day battery life, and the TicWatch Pro 3 touts that it has up to a 3-day battery life. I've been using both of these watches now for TicWatch Pro over a week and the Versa 3 for at least a month. And I can tell you guys that with average use, where I'm going for runs a couple of times a week, I'm playing music from the watches, those types of things eat down the battery. And on the Versa 3, realistically, I'm getting about a 3-day battery life. Even though it touts 6, I think you'd have to turn like everything off, GPS, turn all the brightness of the screen down and everything to really get that 6 days of battery. Realistically, I'm getting more of that, like 3, maybe even 4 days of battery. On the TicWatch Pro 3, again with average use, going for some of those runs, walks, using the GPS, those types of things, I'm getting pretty darn close to that 3 days of battery. Usually at the end of that second day, that's when I'm having to charge it, and I do like playing my music and doing other things with the watch. So something else I think is worth mentioning, the TicWatch Pro 3 has this Essential mode. In Essential mode, what that's going to do is you can switch to Essential mode at any time, or it's going to switch automatically when your battery gets down to 5% or lower. And what that does is it basically turns off all of the smartwatch features with the AMOLED screen and just switches it to a permanent LCD screen, the screen that you were seeing after this AMOLED screen fades out or times out. And then that becomes your watch screen for as long as you choose to keep it in that Essential mode. So you'll see this right here. and this will extend the battery life of your watch up to 45 days. So both of these watches are water resistant. Fitbit touts that it is water resistant up to 50 meters. The TicWatch Pro 3 has an IP68 water and dust proof rating. So if you want to take these things swimming, if you want to get them wet, I've taken them with me and gotten them wet, and they both seem to be working fine. So both the watches feature an always on screen, and that's going to look like this, so at least you can always see the time. They also feature timeout delay settings if you go into the settings. So if you don't want to keep the always on feature, what I thought was interesting is the TicWatch only allows you to have a time delay of up to 15 seconds, and then that's as high as you can go before the screen's going to time out. Fitbit actually allows you to keep the screen on for up to 60 seconds. Obviously, the longer you have that delay on, the more it's going to deplete the battery. So with both watches, you have their respective operating systems. Both watches can be paired up to both Android as well as Apple phones. However, if you're pairing either one of these up to an Apple phone, you are not going to be able to respond to any notifications that you get. You will also not be able to take any phone calls. So on the TicWatch, this is going to be running Wear OS, and this is actually featuring the 4100 Qualcomm Snapdragon chip. And you'll see that even just moving through all of these different apps, it looks really good. I would say that you have slightly more app options using Wear OS on the TicWatch Pro than you do on Fitbit. They definitely do have a decent amount of apps to help you out with things, including their coach for activities. They do have like Find My Phone. You can go through relax patterns as far as breathing. They've got weather. And then there are a few games that you can get for the watch in addition to like the Starbucks app, Spotify, so different music streaming apps. However, Wear OS just has a little bit more from Google that gives you more options. Some of the most interesting apps that I've found on the TicWatch Pro, in addition to all of TicWatch's apps that are on here for exercise, are going to be things like it has a built-in voice memo app that allows you to record your voice or record speech that's going on. So if you go to a meeting or something and you want to record it using that app, you can do that. It's got all the basic apps that are kind of built into it. It also does have Google Maps on here, and what I like about that is if you pull up Google Maps on, say, your phone, and then you put in directions that you need to some sort of location, you also get those step-by-step directions on the watch itself as you're driving. So that is very convenient. Also, in addition to that, what I think is a cool app to just kind of take advantage of is going to be things like Google Translate, where if you're going someplace and you need to translate some information from one language to another, you've got those abilities on the TicWatch Pro because it's running Wear OS. So notifications on both of these watches. Both these watches allow you to send and receive phone calls. Both of these watches allow you to do the same for text messages. You can hook it up to your email. You'll just kind of see some examples here of what emails kind of come up as on each one of the screens. You can also hook it up to your daily calendars, so you can sync it with all that information so you get notifications through the day. What I like about both of these is that they've got a voice response feature, so you can use the built-in microphone if you're going to respond to text messages. You can also do custom replies. So here's going to be an example of getting an incoming call on both the watches. You have the option to decline or accept. Now, if I am going to actually accept the call on either one of these watches, what you'll actually be able to do with the TicWatch Pro 3 is I can hold the whole phone call conversation on the watch itself using the built-in microphone and speaker. On the Fitbit Versa 3, that option as of fall 2020 is still not available. It's something that Fitbit had mentioned was something that they were going to have coming here in the future. But essentially, if I were to accept the phone call, it would start the phone call on my phone, and then I'd be able to talk that way. Now, in addition to that, with both of these watches, to be able to accept those phone calls, the watches themselves are not connected to any phone network, so you do need to use your cell phone connection. So the cell phone needs to be near you or on you while you're wearing the watch to be able to actually get those phone calls. So these guys are both smartwatches, but they also do a lot of health and fitness tracking. And both these watches are very comparable, showing you different stats. So if we go into the Versa 3 exercise app, they have 20 plus different exercises for you to choose from. The TicWatch Pro 3 is going to have individual apps that do each one of these things. So they have Tic Exercise for exercises. If we go into that, there are about 10 different exercises that are on here to choose from. So a little bit more limited than Fitbit's exercises. If we go back to the main screen, you can get your pulse by going into Tic Pulse, your sleep tracking through Tic Sleep. There is a Tic Breathe for kind of like a relaxing breathing exercise app. And then we also have your blood oxygen that you can check using Tic Oxygen. So that brings me to an interesting point. On the TicWatch, you can on the fly get your blood oxygen level. Using the Versa 3, the only way that you can get your blood oxygen level is you actually have to go to the Clock Faces app. And when you go into the Clock Faces app, there is a clock face that you have to download from Fitbit, and I've actually done a video showing this. But essentially, once you turn that watch face on your watch, that's when it's going to be able to, it gives you a bunch of different stats, but one of the stats is your blood oxygen level. You can't do it on the fly. You actually need to take the watch with you and take it to bed so that it will update your information overnight. And then the next morning, about 45 minutes to an hour after you've gotten up, that's when it's going to give you your blood oxygen level reading, and that's based on the sleep you got the night before. Something else to note with the TicWatch Pro 3 is if you install Google Fit, that'll actually give you more options. Gives you access to like 70 plus different exercises that you can go through just besides the Tic Exercise app that's installed on the TicWatch Pro 3. So on both these watches, you can get your health stats. On Fitbit, they have Fitbit Today. On the TicWatch, they have Tic Health. And as you go into both of these, they have different kind of screen readouts showing you different information. So on the TicWatch, we're going to start with that because this has got the quicker timeout. Kind of shows you a dashboard of how many steps you've got in, how many active minutes for exercise, how much you've been active throughout the day. Shows you calories, miles, high intensity exercise, heart rate. So giving you all sorts of different stats, that blood oxygen saturation. You can see the week, activities today, sleep tracking, and so much more. So on Fitbit, you can see your steps, heart rate, calories burned, floors, because the Versa 3 can track how many floors you've done, distance, active zone minutes, exercise, sleep tracking, hourly activity, and then you can manually log your food, water, weight, and then logging your temperature. Again, this doesn't actually sense your temperature. It's something that you can just manually go into and then log. So both the Fitbit and TicWatch have their respective apps that you can go into, and this is going to give you more information than what you're just going to see on the watch screens themselves. This is Fitbit's dashboard, and you can see everything from your steps. You can do things like track your mindfulness, wear your Fitbit to bed. It's going to do that sleep tracking, tracks your exercise, all the same information that we were seeing on the watch. But if we do things here where, like, if we go into our sleep tracking, it's actually going to give you a sleep score. And we'll kind of see here from different days of the week based on when I've been wearing the watch. It sums up how well your sleep tracking has been into a number. And then if you want to see more details and information on your sleeping for that night, you can go into the sleep tracking and it's going to show you all that information. So in the Fitbit app, under exercise, you can actually record your workouts, and using the GPS, this is how it's going to look in the app. So this is pretty cool. Actually shows you, and I would say this is pretty accurate using the different paths at the park. Shows you the paths that I took, and then even goes into different heart rate zones and pace as I was doing my workout. So in the MOBVOI app, this is going to be your dashboard, and you can do all sorts of different stuff from here as far as the sports and health tracking. If we click on that, again, we're going to see a lot of that information I was just going through with you on the watch. You can also go back a couple of days. So I just want to show you an example here. This is how it's going to display the information. It's going to show you your sleep tracking. Just like in Fitbit, you can click on it and get more detailed information. If I jump back again with exercises, so I did like a 17-minute outdoor run. This is going to give me all the information on that run, my heart rate, my pace, step frequency, step length. And then again, this is showing me running through the different path at Orth Park there, and you can kind of see that it seems to have followed very well with my steps, just like on Fitbit's tracking. So both these watches feature contactless payment systems. We've got Fitbit Wallet and Google Pay on the TicWatch Pro 3. Both of these watches allow you to store your credit cards inside the watch and protect them by setting a PIN to access your watch, and then you can go to a Starbucks or some sort of a touchless kiosk to pay with your credit card, and then just hold your watch close to take advantage of the contactless payment system. Both of these watches feature voice assistants. So on the Fitbit, we've got Amazon Alexa, and then on the TicWatch Pro 3, we have Google Assistant. Fitbit has also said that support for Google Assistant is coming to the Versa 3, but as of the recording of this video, that is still not available. If we ask Google Assistant a question, tell me a joke.
Here's a joke for Thanksgiving. Why did the basketball coach bench the turkey? Because it kept getting fouls.
Ugh. We actually get the audible response, and you can turn that off if you want on the TicWatch Pro 3. On Fitbit, if I ask Alexa a question, tell me a joke, it just gives me the answer. What do you call a baseball player who chews sunflower seeds? The designated spitter. But again, that is all just the text on the screen, and there's no voice. I do think, though, that they are planning on utilizing the speaker so that the watch talks back to you. But again, as of right now, that capability is not available on the Versa 3. Both of these watches allow me to use the assistants to ask it questions, also turn lights on and off and other smart devices. So very handy having the voice assistants on both of these watches. So let's talk about music on both of these smartwatches. So on the Fitbit Versa 3, as far as music apps, you can download Spotify, Pandora, and Deezer. Those are kind of the big three, Spotify being the most popular. The kind of the catch-22 though is, in order to use any of these apps on this watch, you have to have premium services of Spotify, Pandora, or Deezer, which means that if you're trying to use the free version of Spotify or the free version of Pandora, it just won't let you connect the service up to the watch. So you'll need to have a subscription to, say, Spotify, and if we go into Spotify, you can't actually download any of the music to the watch. You can just use the watch as a remote. You have to have Spotify open on your phone, and then from that point it allows you to pause, play, forward through songs, and basically just use it as a remote, which is convenient, but again, kind of limiting in my opinion. It would be nice to be able to download the music to the watch. I mean, since it has built-in GPS and you can leave your phone at home. Pandora and Deezer, again, you have to have the subscriptions for them. They'll actually allow you to download playlists to the watch. It does take a little bit, but from that point, then you can listen to music without needing to actually play it from the phone. You can connect up Bluetooth headphones to this. A big question a lot of people have asked me from my Versa review video is, can you actually download MP3s or music you own to the watch? Unfortunately, you cannot. There is no way to actually download music onto the watch to store it to the watch. And I think, to me, that is a big limiting factor. I do wish that you would have that capability. So let's talk about music on the TicWatch Pro 3. So this also lets you download, say, Spotify or Pandora as far as music services. I actually couldn't find Deezer in the Google Play Store to download on here, but there are also other options like iHeartRadio. We have like Shazam. Those are apps that are not available on the Fitbit OS. So, you know, just a little bit more options. iHeartRadio's got a lot of radio stations. I have both a premium and a free account for both Spotify and Pandora, and I was successfully able to link up either one of those to the watch. And again, you use the watch as a remote, so you can't actually offline download any music using this watch as well. But again, if we go into Spotify, and then from this point I can pause, forward through songs, and use it as a remote. So that is very convenient. Same thing when using Pandora. However, a big difference when we get to the TiCWATCH Pro 3 is that you can actually download your music to the watch. So if you have MP3s that you own, if you have purchased music and you want to physically download them to the watch, play them from the watch without bringing your phone with you. On Wear OS, I had to download Nav Explorer and Nav Music, and Nav Explorer allowed me to wirelessly transfer my music, and then Nav Music lets me actually play that music that I have saved on here to Bluetooth headphones that I have connected. I don't necessarily have to have my phone with me, and I can still use the GPS if I go out for a run or something. So more music options available on this watch. So I think it really comes down to just your personal preference of what features between these two watches you are most interested in. I think the Versa 3 definitely has a little bit more of a modern look to it than the TiCWATCH Pro. But I also think the TiCWATCH Pro has a lot of features to it that make it very compelling as well. And a lot of times I get questions in the comments, okay, so out of doing these comparisons, which watch would I choose? Wow, I actually got that right. This is like take number 10. It's like a tongue twister there. Out of the two watches, I've always been a big fan of Fitbit, but honestly, a deal breaker for me is not being able to put music on the watch. I think, you know, is it worth paying that extra $70 for the TiCWATCH Pro? I don't know if it really is. For me, I would think that I really like that feature. I know on the Garmin watches that I have reviewed, the Venue SQ, you also get that option to put music on it. So, and that's something that you actually have to pay extra for with Garmin watches. So for someone like me, it is something that I'd be willing to pay extra for. In addition to that, I really have found that I like using Wear OS, and I really think it moves smooth as butter with that 4100 Snapdragon chip that's in the watch. And I like all the app options. So for me, I think the health tracking, the stat tracking is just as good on the TiCWATCH Pro as it is on Fitbit. I personally would probably go with the TiCWATCH Pro 3. That's just my opinion. I know Fitbit has a lot of advantages to it as well. And I guess one of the disadvantages for me in going to the TiCWATCH Pro is that all of my friends on Fitbit I can no longer invite to any challenges or anything like that. But I am interested to know your thoughts. Out of these two watches, which one would you pick? Which one are you leaning towards? Let me know down in the comments section below. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Take a second right now, hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell. I plan on doing a full review video of the TiCWATCH Pro 3 that goes more in depth on a lot of these features, so you can check that out. You'll get notified by clicking that bell every time I release new videos. My name is Jeff. This is Tinker Forward. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to make every day awesome, and I will see you guys in the next video.